Right, start again. So yes, Perth, Western Australia. So mental challenges of the first quarter of the 21st century already, guys. These days we witness burnt out teachers quitting their jobs in droves, and many more thinking about it, unfortunately. We have long been required to draw on our emotional resources, but one can't keep giving from an empty bucket. My bucket is full, all of a sudden turning into a bucket list, literally. Um, Teaching English as additional language was one of the hardest hit education sectors during the pandemic, but it is nice to see that ESL is back in high demand. In its recently released roadmap, the Australian Council for TESOL Associations admitted that Australian educational system has been failing both students and teachers. And to improve on that, first and foremost, they suggest upgrading curriculum resources so they provide comprehensive planning advice and best practice examples. I think that's balm on everybody's wounds, and it would be nice to have more support. Stressed, overworked, anxiety, fatigue, non-stop preparation, learning on the go, planning, being flexible and creative 24/7 at the expense of our own families, lives, and yet walking every day into that classroom of students who, in addition to all above mentioned, are also facing separation, trauma, loneliness, and many other mental challenges. If Australia wants to reclaim its reputation as world-class education provider, and once in 80s world leader in this education, we must boost their resources, skills, and commitment to teaching. Today's conference is a sign that all this is happening. So thank you, English Australia, for raising these questions. I'm not afraid to repeat my colleagues' opinions that both students and teachers are not in their comfort zones right now. Students' stress results from background problems, trauma, conflict zone displacement, totally different cultural environment, loneliness, health-related problems, I not even mentioned that word, demands of broad digital engagement and lack of skills and mostly resources for that. Teachers, on their half, real teachers, those who care, they need to keep their face and work as psychologists, counselors, IT guru, all in one, and provide the outcomes as well. And because stress is contagious, the more the educators care, the more intense emotions they experience. It becomes a vicious circle, which inevitably leads to a negative classroom. I read somewhere the other day that the earth is actually spinning faster right now. Do you have the same feeling that you just don't have enough time to achieve at least 1/3 of what you planned? Feels like Luna Lovegood from Harry Potter. Don't worry, you're just as sane as I am. But it is a brave world, and we can do it, and we are in this together. Uh, Growth mindset, yes, that helps, as well as keeping in mind that stress is actually our body's way to prepare us for a challenge. Well, what doesn't kill us? I suppose the question is how much one can endure and for how long. It can be rather unhelpful if we're denying how we're really feeling. But we're here, we're talking, we're not denying. Emotions, even negative, and need to be felt, processed, acted upon. Our talk today concentrates on positive, inclusive environment, motivating both ESL students and teachers, maintaining a mindset of flexibility and adaptability, increasing willingness for risk taking, working in collaboration, and enhancing students' sense of autonomy and initiative in self-directed learning. We will share what we do to stay sane, to do our job well, to achieve good results and witness our students' success and readiness for real life challenges. Here is to Jacqueline. I'm doing this for you.
Hi, sorry, Lana, this is Sophie here. Is Jacqueline talking?
Yes.
We can't hear her.
Give me a second.
Maybe she can sit in your chair, Lana.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, are you able to see me?
No.
No?
Yes.
Okay. I will go to pages. I will move to Lana's place.
Would you like to just sit in Lana's chair? Maybe you can alternate.
Yes, yes. I'm moving over now.
Okay, so and we thought that we have all our bases covered for this. And this is an example of sometimes what happens in the classroom. You know, we have everything planned, happily going in, and then certain things happen, and it does create a lot of stress for us. But then, you know, we control our emotions and know that it's going to be okay. So back to what I've shared just now, that, you know, Walt Disney, he did say that, you know, stop talking and just start doing. You know, but in the midst, as I said, of what is happening, you know, how do I begin, and where do I begin, and what do I begin with? You know, and we hear people saying, be positive, change the mindset. That's a new norm. But you know, it is really a tall order, and it's so much easier said than done, especially when we try to recognize and acknowledge the emotions within us, our mental health, and also our students' well-being as well. Are our worries reruns? Do we recycle our worries? And what is it that makes us anxious? You know, the things, you know, that makes us anxious will be those things that we are very worried about. And the more we try to avoid those things that make us anxious, the more anxious we become when we have to do it. And that's what we find so true. However, we tell ourselves, you know, no, we are not crushed. Quitting is not an option, definitely not. And we are certainly not out. So it was back to the drawing board. It was back to basics. It was reassessing our situation and that of our students as well, especially on our mental state. And also re-identifying our approaches. What worked before, and will it work also? Is there any kind of tweaking that we have to do? And we also recalculate our responses. How should I? What is the best way to respond when a student comes up to us with this and that? So that actually sets the atmosphere for us, and it changes the environment to one that is inclusive and positive. We look to ourselves, you know, when we talk about recalculate, you know, it's to recalibrate and to recalculate here, like as though we have an inner GPS within us. And so we look at our students. It's back to the students that our learning process focus on. My students, a lot of them are actually from different backgrounds, and they are of mixed abilities, different learning styles, and they are beginners. And they have minimal digital literacy. And so when we had to introduce that hybrid delivery, it was definitely a road less taken by our students, and it created a lot of anxieties within them.
we also, as we reflected, we knew that it was not just the digital knowledge that they may not be there yet, but it was also the digital equipment. Some of them had no laptops or laptops, that didn't have cameras or microphones, and internet was dropping out most of the time, no printers, and environment that wasn't conducive to do online learning at all. And so with all these things that we took into account, we look at the approaches in trying to create an environment where they can still thrive and they can feel safe and build their confidence. So we look into different approaches that for our classroom, a mix and match of approaches that we find work for our students and work for us. And one of it was the participatory approach. And here, this particular approach focused very much on the learning process. And in this approach here, the teachers become part of the learning process, and they work very closely and in tandem with the students in guiding them, in facilitating, the everyday learning experiences in the classroom. What about the students? Well, these students, they come with a lot of experiences and they bring that into the mix. They brought their identities, the ways of doing things, their ideas. And so we see an environment where the teacher is not the only one, or the teacher doesn't dominate the input, but actually it was the students working together with the teachers. And that gave the students a lot of confidence because it empowered them. It gave them autonomy to decide, freedom to express, because we have different activities, different tasks for them to express themselves, knowing that they have different learning styles, and also they had a control over their learning experiences. And that was empowering, because when they are given a choice to decide on these things, it boosts up their confidence level. And that was what happened in the classroom. And at the same time, we also use another approach by Thornbury, and that was to keep the learning process as relevant and authentic as possible. And how we did this was to focus very much on the task and activities in the classroom. Activities that actually focus on the concerns of the students, what is it that interests the students, looking into their needs. And the prior knowledge is very important, because that set as an anchor in helping the students settle into the classroom and be able to experience that knowledge, that language development. So we frame our approaches around real world application, where the students, they work in their comfort zone, they had this sense of achievement, the activities were doable, and definitely or inevitably we saw that confidence grew, and that was that growth mindset. Some of the activities that we did were simple ones. They cooked their favorite dishes, they shared the recipes, they went online, took photos, posted online, and that's digital delivery for them. And also we made biscuits, Anzac biscuits, we made pizza, and to learn shopping vocabulary and transaction money, we took them to shopping centers. And then we took them, we also had class trips to orchards, where they learned the season, different fruit in Australia. And to learn signs, icons, directions, symbols, we went to the city, to Perth City, where we had the wild goose chase, which was actually a scavenger hunt, and we had a good time there. And so these students, they were working within that zone where they could identify, and there was a lot of collaboration, because they worked together with, we put them into groups, and they worked with teams as well. And also, because our students were of mixed abilities and with different learning styles, we used the differentiated instruction by Tomlinson as well. And here again, it was on projects, and a a lot of scaffolding, not just the teachers scaffolding the students, but when they were working in groups, it was the students scaffolding themselves. And there was a lot of engagement, participation, a lot of question and answer sessions. And we saw that they were willing to take risk, make mistakes, and we assure them mistakes are actually stepping stones to success. And they built that trust. And we found that, when the students see value in what they learn so much better. And the teachers were able to build that trust together with the students. We had a growing bean sprout from mung beans project in the classroom. And then a few days into that project, I had to be isolated due to COVID. But because these students, they were already working in groups, there was that good level of collaboration and scaffolding. They continued taking care of their mung beans with lots of TLC, lots of tender loving care. Was it successful? Yes. When we look at language development, new language being developed, definitely so. But did they get the bean sprouts? We had successful stories and not so successful stories as well, because some were not successful, but it wasn't just the product that we were looking at. We were also looking at the process, because the process of reaching the product is equally important as the product itself. Doable projects, lots of laughters, a great feeling of acceptance and belonging in the classroom. So I'll pass now to Lana.
No problem at all.
Yes.
Participatory approach.
Yes.
So positive, inclusive. Stay here.
All right. Okay.
They can hear us. Safe. All these keywords to remember. What really helps is physical activity, drama, costumes, songs, craft, excursions.
Yeah.
We had our hybrid excursions, living in the present moment, like mindfulness, meditation. We had other speakers invited into our hybrid lessons. Everybody is inclusive, connecting to other people. The most important thing, stay connected. As Anna pointed out yesterday, those who need help most, they speak about it, the list. Let's help them speak. From my experience, from my best examples, classroom organization helps a lot. I use a lot of words of wisdom quotes on the doors and walls about kindness, beauty of the world, happiness, achievement. Are you okay? Twinkle tickets on the door, like in Centralink or Department of Transport office. They walk in, choose the ticket, and I am already alerted. How are they today? What are they feeling? Because self-esteem and learning are closely connected. Believe in your students, respect them, make them believe in themselves. I prompted my students of higher level to write short stories and participate in West Australian Young 2022 short story competition, with the result that out of 12 students, 5 actually submitted an entry. Thank you, teacher, for encouraging me. A result of what at first looked like a very risky experiment. Inclusive, interactive, social. I have borrowed many activities from Big Life Journal, as you can see. What works for my teenage daughter works for me and my students. One is similar to Jacqueline's "How do you feel today" chat, which she uses, but mine has a larger variety of synonyms. My wheel of emotions. Another can be a jar or a box filled with paper strips with sentences starting in 60 seconds, and name as many things as possible you are grateful for. And another thing, also following Tony's suggestion yesterday of avoiding certain topics, we actually don't use red pens anymore. Huge mental relief. When we use green, it works like miracles. Make positive feedback a good habit. Break the wheel of everybody constantly complaining about everything. Use a couple of minutes at the end of each lesson to summarize how wonderful that lesson was, how proud you are of your student achievement. And believe me, you will be energized with positive emotions and motivated for the next challenge after 30 times echoed, "Thank you, teacher. Thank you so much." That's best mental therapy. And one more moment is, well, put yourself first. You're a very important part of equation. And that has nothing to do with teacher-centeredness. think of oxygen masks on the plane and first aid rules. You must be safe to help others. Angela mentioned yesterday we're on the front line. Yes. So use the peer support model used by frontline health workers when they sit together, managers, teachers, support staff, reflect on the work, put emotional well-being apart, above everything, above even academic side. Well, if it sometimes can feel like what's happening to us rather than we're living our lives, but we do know better. Food for thought. Back to Jacqueline. Almost
Thank
there.
you very much. And in our attempt to create a positive and inclusive environment for our students and for ourselves as well, we try to create positive relationships with our peers, in collaborating with them, in our students, working on effective learning routines. Like in my classroom, every morning we have an emotional check. So they check in using their teams, and they start by putting in a face, of expressing how they feel. And that's so good, because at the end of the day, I see certain faces that I might want to, it'll help me to know probably I need to talk to some of them. And that enhanced engagement. So sometimes in the midst of stress, and anxiety, we go into a freeze mode or a fight or flight, but we can also choose to tend and befriend and just silence the voice, stop everything, and get a partner, get a colleague, and work together. These are some of the things that we can look at, acknowledge our emotions, focus on the now, break the cycle, the circuit breaker, stop our worries and just focus on what we have to do at the moment, and silence the critic, which very much sometimes we are our biggest critic. Rest, declare a mental health day for ourselves, and be kind. I came across at the childcare the saying that if in this world we have the choice, we can choose to be anything. In this world, we have a choice to choose to be anything. Be kind, and be kind starts with ourselves. Like what Lana had said, we have to help ourselves first, before we can learn to help our students. And subscribe to this act, get physical, get all the good chemicals in our body working, all charged up with dopamine level, being spiritual, being mindful, go for retreats or even meditation, creative, pick up a hobby, work together with colleagues, and commit ourselves to something, volunteering, something that will help us in our confidence as well. So I many times create my own emergencies. And then I remind myself, I pause, stop, and remind myself that, hey, today, if it doesn't work like today, it didn't work like what we have planned. It's okay. Maybe the next time I'll try again. Tomorrow will be better. Yeah. And with that in mind, let us reach out and be rich as well. Let us keep calm and let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.